Darcie O'Connor is a mental health and behavioral health counselor living in Iowa. She has been a Pranic Healer since 2016 and has successfully used Pranic Healing to assist in the improvement of physical, emotional, and mental illness, or even in some cases, sustained healing. She is also an active member of a Pranic Healing service pod that offers pro bono healing services. Darcie offers professional Pranic Healing services through O'Connor Counseling Services. You can contact her at Darcie at o'connorcounselingllc.com. And now, without further ado, we're going to have Darcie give her presentation.
Good morning. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, everyone. It is with deep gratitude that I am here today. Addiction should have taken this body away a long time ago. The only reason that I am here to connect with you all today is because of Pranic Healing, because of my teacher, and because of the teachings of Pranic Healing. So as we connect, I will share two things and one thing that I'm still really working at learning. So two things that I know are addiction and Pranic Healing. And the one thing I'm still really working at is how Pranic Healing and recovery can truly integrate. So please keep in mind that this is my personal experience with Pranic Healing and recovery. I was introduced to Pranic Healing at a Twin Hearts meditation back in 2015. I became a Pranic Healer in 2016 after receiving healings for an autoimmune disorder called Behçet syndrome. This autoimmune had kept me in pain for 25 years. So after experiencing 12 Pranic Healing sessions and finding relief, ultimately I was in remission, or what some may call recovery. I was hooked, and I will say even 9 years later, I remain in remission from that autoimmune disorder. But that's not my story that I'm sharing with you today. So today, the recovery journey that I am sharing with you is about alcohol addiction in my life and Pranic Healing. So this week, this Tuesday, when I was thinking, how do I share about alcohol addiction? So I grew up with an alcoholic mother. I quickly became an alcoholic myself, started drinking at 16, and within my early 20s was experiencing alcoholism. So I was like, that's a lot of alcohol addiction. I live in my childhood home currently, and I've been back and forth and across the world and all over, but I always kind of come back home. And so on Tuesday night, when I was thinking about how I was going to approach this story, I picked up a notebook, very thick notebook, and just kind of opened it to a page. I was going to just write down some thoughts. Well, it was quite serendipitous that I picked this notebook. And the page that I opened to was this particular page, and I'm going to kind of zoom in here. And this is the contact information for Edward at Pranic Healing. So I was contacting Edward at Pranic Healing in 2020, and this was for an amethyst crystal to complete chronic psychotherapy for clients. And when I opened to this page, I thought, yeah, what a great start. That's where I'll start. So that brings us to 2020. I was currently sober after experiencing a very violent night of alcohol. I got myself sober, and I was doing a lot of pranic healing as I was in my recovery period at the time. And I wanted to really work on pranic psychotherapy. So as I pursued that amethyst crystal, I was excited when it arrived in the mail, and I was ready to get to work. And the first person I was going to be working on was my mom with her alcohol addiction. Oddly, though, it was this first healing with my crystal on my mother, who has been an alcoholic for over 50 years. It was this healing that led to a profound shift in me. So, number one, it was during that healing that I had the desire to spread the teachings. I realized that I want to help others who are seeking recovery and I want to share the teachings. The best way I knew to do that was to pursue my master's of clinical mental health counseling, and which I did so that I could support with my pranic healing teachings. Also, it was during this time while I was sober that I was healing my mother and completing the psychotherapy that I finally admitted I was an alcoholic, and my mom was my fast forward. She was living a life that I would live if I didn't change or course correct. So I really was sticking to the teachings, completing my healings. I was at that time only doing self-healing and using pranic healing teachings. That was working well. I got to about 6 months of recovery, but then that consistency diminished. Time was scarce. I started working because at this time it was COVID, so I was unemployed. I had all the time to work on the teachings. So life picked back up. Time went away, consistency went away. I started graduate school and I stopped practicing. I stopped my self-healings, I stopped the pranic healings, I stopped meditation. And my alcoholism escalated. And the pattern was clear. No healing, no stability. And so what that helped me to realize is that I needed to ask for healing because I didn't have the time to do self-healing or complete the practices. So finally, with humility in 2021, I had to face my own shame of being a pranic healer with a serious drinking problem. So I reached out to my dear friend, Kamina, and I asked for healing. And so that is where the deeper layers of my experience being an alcoholic showed up. So the first things that Kamina and I discovered throughout the healings were shame and fear. I had shame from the pain and the anguish and the harm that I had caused while drinking. I had shame being a pranic healer and a vengeful therapist battling alcohol addiction. This is my personal experience, I had the fear of becoming my alcoholic mother our behaviors were aligning when we would use alcohol. So I had that fear of becoming her. We also discovered grief. So I had this grief or this mourning of an old identity, this identity of fun. I'm losing my fun self because I associated fun Darcie with drinking Darcie. And there was a whole nother Darcie, and that was Pranic Healing Darcie. So that fun Darcie, I had to grieve her. I really worked on my triggers. This is something I would encourage Pranic Healers to work on with your clients, is identifying triggers. For me, that looked like my fear of flying. And even when I was doing self-healings before I asked for healing, I would bargain with God and I would say, okay, if you can remove my fear of flying, I'll stop drinking. Sure enough, I not only am able to fly easily domestically within the United States, even a year ago, last October, I was able to make a round trip to Southeast Asia, no alcohol. So while it wasn't even the addiction we were working on that psychotherapy fear that would trigger my addiction. The other thing too, so those are those emotional components. We did healing on my liver. I experienced a lot of pain in my liver when I would go on my binge drinking episodes. So we did physical healing on the liver. We did physical healing on my brain. Another thing too that Kamina helped me with is doing ancestral healing. Again, remember, my mom was an alcoholic. Alcoholism was present on both sides of my family. We worked on trauma. We worked on other emotional, just stress, anxiety, things that I would use alcohol to cope with. So these were not just emotional concepts, they were real energetic patterns stored in my body, stored in my family lineage. Later in my work as a mental health counselor, I have been able to draw on my experience as someone who was in alcoholism, and I've been able to offer that insight as a mental health counselor. I've been fortunate enough to have the experience and opportunity to set out what I had decided while doing that healing on my mom. I was working with clients and I had a supportive supervisor that allowed me to incorporate pranic healing. So what that looked like is some of my clients would ask for entire sessions to be focused primarily on energy healing. And the results were real just within that 1 hour on a measurable scale of 0 to 10. My clients and I were able to notice trauma relief, reduce withdrawal symptoms, reduce pain from physical injuries caused by addiction. So I had some self-harming clients. We were able to reduce that pain. I had complications from liver failure, kidney failure. We were able to notice a healing in the nervous system and emotional clarity. So again, these were all within 1 hour sessions of my clients. We were able to notice from 10 being the worst experience of the symptom down to 0 being no symptoms. What that has shown me is that pranic healing is my anchor. So throughout the last 5 years, I have managed periods of recovery. Sometimes 1 month, sometimes 8 months. but I have also relapsed many, many times. And I understand relapsing. And I understand what is needed to not relapse. It was following a severe relapse in June 2024 that I came back and I decided I'm going to regularly apply meditation. I'm going to once again ask for regular healings. I'm going to consistently practice the teachings of pranic healing. And I engaged in my pranic healing community. That effort led to what 5 years of trying could not do. And on June 5th of this year, I celebrated 1 full year of continuous sobriety from alcohol. What does that tell me? Constancy of aim and effort. That's what pranic healing and sobriety recover. This is a teaching of our teacher, is practiced diligently. So when I am in alignment with the teachings of pranic healing, and I'm in alignment with the teachings, I'm receiving pranic healing, I am in recovery. Before I finish, you're all probably wondering what happened to my mom. In December 2023, she had a devastating house fire while intoxicated. She survived, but she lost everything. However, it was following that fire, she went to the hospital, and for a week, she was in the hospital recovering, not from injuries, but more so detoxing from alcohol. So from the day after her fire, December 13th, 2023, my mom, alcoholic of over 50 years, has been sober. So that's nearly 2 years of sustained recovery from alcohol. So my mom doesn't necessarily attribute her ongoing recovery to pranic healing, but I know what's been helping in the background for 3 years prior to her sober date. And that's the intention during meditations, the healings, and the ancestral work that was being done. So my mom and I are sober today. Through this journey, I have come to believe that recovery is possible, but not as a destination. I believe that it's a process. I believe that it's a verb. I believe in recovering. It requires constancy of aim and effort. It requires support, energetic, spiritual, communal. As many of my Pranic Healer instructors have said, you wouldn't expect to take 1 shower and stay clean forever. Energy healing is the same. It's an energetic shower. It requires consistent work. AA also uses this mentality, 1 day at a time. Every relapse has brought me back to the teachings of pranic healing. And every return to the teachings has brought me back to myself. I hope that pranic healing can continue to bring recovery to you, to those you love, to your clients, to myself, and to ultimately the world. Thank you for letting me share.